One idea you're really going to want to pay attention to is this idea of slope as a rate. When we read word problems, they're not going to tell us that this is the slope. What they're going to say, or what they're going to show, is that it's a rate. Now think about rate of change, how much something is changing. That's what slope does. Slope tells us how much something is changing as we move from left to right. Well, that's what rate does. If you look at this example, it says you are traveling by car and leave home at 8 a.m. By 8:45 a.m., you are 36 miles from home. Find the average speed in miles per hour. Look at, there's our rate. Okay, nowhere in here does it say slope, but we know when we're talking about our rate of miles per hour, that's going to be our slope. If you think about it for a second, if I were to graph something like this, and I had my hours along the bottom and I had my miles along the side, what would happen is I could track after how many hours the total number of miles I've traveled. Okay? So as our hours are increasing, so is the number of miles. If I want to figure out how much is increasing, that's our rate. That's also our slope. Okay? So we look at a problem like this. We know, if we want miles per hour, that we're traveling 36 miles. And how long? Well, it wants hours, but right now we're dealing in minutes, right? We went from 8 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. That's 45 minutes. So if I change this into a unit rate, I could go 36 divided by 45 and get 0.08 miles per minute. And if I have 1 minute and want, well, how many minutes are an hour? 60. I could just multiply this by 60. Oops. These minutes would cancel out. 0.8 times 60 is 48 minutes, I believe. Or I'm sorry, 48 miles. So the average speed is 48 miles per 1 hour. Now there's different ways you could do this. Okay, you could think of this in terms of being 3/4 of an hour. And if you did 36 divided by 3/4, remember dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. If you look at this, 3 goes into itself 1 time, 3 goes into 36. 12 times 4 is 48. So either way you look at it, there's probably been more ways than that, you would see that our average speed, our average rate, which if I wanted to graph it would be our slope, is 48 miles per hour. Now remember, if you think of what slope is, slope tells us how much we're changing as we move from left to right. That's what our rate of change here. If I'm talking about 48 miles per hour, that means every hour I travel, I'm going 48 more miles. It's changing at 48 miles per every hour. So that's why slope and rate are kind of interchangeable, and that'll be important to remember as we move on in this chapter.